Through the grainy feed of a racing camera, a Russian military convoy crawls along a muddy Ukrainian road unaware. The operator's hands steady on the controls, his call sign, Eagle, distance 2,000 meters, speed 80 kilometers per hour. The drone descends. In his goggles, the world compresses into a tunnel. Wind noise screams through the drone's motors. 800 meters. A Russian soldier glances up. Perhaps he hears that distinctive high-pitched whine. He turns, shouts something. His comrades don't hear him over the rumble of diesel engines. Too late. Impact. The explosion tears through armored. Steel like paper. The convoy grinds to a halt. Soldiers scatter, but Eagle isn't alone. 2 more drones are already airborne. What happened in the next 72 hours would force every military on Earth to confront an uncomfortable truth. The most expensive armies in history are vulnerable to weapons that cost less than a smartphone. This is the story of how a $50 commercial racing drone became the most feared weapon on the Ukrainian battlefield, and how one strike, one counterstrike, and the brutal cycle that followed changed warfare forever. February 24th, 2022, 4 p.m. local time. Russian forces crossed the border from 3 directions. The plan, according to Western intelligence assessments, was simple: decapitate Ukrainian leadership, seize Kyiv within 96 hours, install a puppet government. Russia had overwhelming advantages: more tanks, more aircraft, more artillery, more everything. The initial assault was conventional: armored columns, helicopter assaults, cruise missile strikes. This was 20th century warfare executed by a 21st century military, or so everyone thought. But within 48 hours, something unexpected happened. Those armored columns started getting destroyed not by Ukrainian jets or attack helicopters, but by small teams of infantry with portable anti-tank weapons: Javelins from the United States, Knalls from Britain, Panzerfaust 3S from Germany. These weapons worked devastatingly well, but they had limitations. Each Javelin cost $75,000, each Knall cost $40,000. Ukraine was burning through them faster than Western allies could supply them. And here's the thing about expensive weapons: you use them sparingly. You save them for high-value targets. You don't waste a Javelin on a supply truck or a mortar position. Ukrainian military command knew they needed volume. They needed cheap, expendable weapons that soldiers could use freely without worrying about cost. They needed something that could be produced locally, quickly, and in massive numbers. The answer was already in their hands, they just didn't know it yet. Before the war, Ukraine had a thriving FPV drone racing community. First-person view racing, think Formula One, but in 3 dimensions at 150 kilometers per hour through obstacle courses that would make fighter pilots nervous. These aren't your consumer G drones. And those use GPS, stabilization, automatic hovering, obstacle avoidance. Basically, they fly themselves. FPV drones are completely manual. Every movement requires input. Kill the throttle and you fall from the sky. There's no return to home button. You crash, you build another one. The pilots wear goggles that display a live feed from the drone's camera. It's as close to actually flying as you can get without leaving the ground. The best pilots can thread a drone through a gap the size of a dinner plate at 100-kilometer H's. It requires reflexes, spatial awareness, and thousands of hours of practice. When the war started, these pilots volunteered, not as infantry, as drone operators. They brought their equipment, their skills, and their understanding of the technology. And then someone had a brilliant, terrible idea. What if we strapped explosives to these things? The concept wasn't entirely new. ISIS had used commercial drones to drop grenades in Syria and Iraq. But those were slow, hovering quadcopters dropping munitions from above, easy to hear, easy to shoot down. FPV drones were different. They were fast, agile, and they could deliver their payload directly into a target with pinpoint accuracy. The first weaponized FPV drones appeared in spring 2022. Through duct tape and hope holding together a racing drone and an anti-tank grenade, they looked ridiculous until they worked. By summer 2022, Ukrainian volunteer groups were manufacturing them by the hundreds, by fall, by the thousands. Each one cost between $400 and $800 to build, parts sourced from China, assembled in workshops, basements, and garages across Ukraine. The Ukrainian military created specialized FPV units. They recruited gamers, engineers, anyone with fast reflexes and technical aptitude. Training took 2 weeks for basic competency, 2 months for combat readiness. Compare that to the year-long training pipeline for a fighter pilot. By 2023, FPV drones weren't an experiment anymore. They were doctrine. Every brigade had drone operators. Every offensive operation included drone support. The Ukrainian military had industrialized improvisation. March 2024, eastern Ukraine, near Bakhmut. The city itself had fallen to Russian forces months earlier after one of the bloodiest battles of the war. The fighting hadn't stopped. It had just just shifted. Supply lines became the new battlefield. Russian forces occupying Bakhmut needed constant resupply ammunition, food, fuel, replacement troops. Convoys ran daily along a network of rural roads, each one a potential target for Ukrainian forces positioned in the surrounding countryside. On this particular morning, a Ukrainian reconnaissance team call sign Sparrow unit was conducting routine surveillance. Two soldiers with binoculars and a thermal imaging scope positioned in a tree line 3 kilometers from the main supply route. Boring work, cold, dangerous if spotted, but mostly just waiting. At 0947 local time, they spotted movement. 5 trucks, 2 Betor 82 armored personnel carriers, standard logistics convoy. They photographed the vehicles, noted direction and speed, and radioed it in. The information reached battalion command within minutes. From there, a decision: artillery strike or drones? Artillery had advantages: massive destructive power, minimal risk to Ukrainian personnel. But it also had problems. Russian counter-battery radar had gotten better. Fire a barrage, and you might get struck back within 90 seconds. And there was another issue: accuracy. The convoy was moving. By the time shells landed, it might be gone. Drones, though drones could hunt, they could chase, they could hit moving targets with precision. And if you lost a drone, you lost $500, not a 25,000 artillery piece. The order came through: FPV strike, target, disable the convoy. The mission went to Griffin Unit 3 FPV operators positioned 8 kilometers behind friendly lines in a partially collapsed farm building. They'd been there for 2 days, running missions, rotating sleep. Their names don't matter for operational security reasons, but their call signs do: Eagle, Hawk, and Falcon. Eagle was the senior operator, 6 months of combat experience, over 200 successful strikes. In the world of FPV warfare, that made him a veteran. Most pilots didn't last 6 weeks in high-intensity zones. Hawk was newer, 2 months in country, still learning the subtleties of wind drift, jamming, patterns, and how Russian infantry reacted to drone attacks. Fast reflexes, but not much combat instinct yet. Falcon was the technical specialist. He maintained the equipment, modified the drones, and handled the explosives. He was also the best pilot of the 3 former racing champion before the war, but he hated combat missions. The weight of it, the finality: you can crash a racing drone and build a new one. You can't undo the other kind. They had 12 drones ready to fly. Each carried a P7V warhead, the business end of an RPG-7 anti-tank grenade, shape charge designed to penetrate. 500 millibeam of steel armor. Against the thin roof armor of a Betor or the canvas cover of a truck, devastating 10-3M Eagle launches first. The drone lifts off with that distinctive angry bee buzz 8,000 RPM motor screaming. In his goggles, the world tilts as the drone climbs, up through 50 meters, 150s. He levels off. Around him, the collapsed farm building disappears as he races east. The flight to target takes 4 minutes. 4 minutes of concentration watching for power lines, trees, random gusts of wind that can flip a drone at these speeds. 4 minutes of knowing that Russian forces have their own drones somewhere overhead, their own operators hunting for people like him. At 3 kilometers out, he spots the convoy. 7 vehicles, now 2 more trucks had joined from a side road. They're moving at roughly 40 kilometers on a muddy road, maintaining spacing. Professional, disciplined. These aren't conscripts in the first weeks of the war. These are experienced logistics troops who survived this long by being careful. Eagle makes his decision. The lead Betor, it's the obvious choice: tactically kill the lead vehicle. The convoy stops, everything backs up, creates chaos. But there's another reason. The BTR has the convoy's command element, the officer coordinating movement. Take him out, and there's no one giving orders when the 2nd and 3rd drones arrive. He climbs to 200 meters higher than he'd like, but he needs the altitude for the dive. Too shallow. An angle and the shape charge won't penetrate. Too steep and he might lose control. Distance 800 meters. He pushes the throttle forward. The drone accelerates into a dive. 80 kilometer for turn 20. On the ground, a Russian soldier notices. Maybe he sees the drone, maybe he just hears it that rising. Whine that every soldier on both sides has learned to fear. He looks up, points, shouts something. The B-tier commander must hear him because the vehicle swerves, a defensive maneuver learned from bitter experience. But it's too late and Eagle is too good. He adjusts mid-dive a micro-correction, a tilt of his thumbs on the controller. The drone tracks the B-tier through the swerve. In the last half second, Eagle can see faces through the B-tier's vision ports. Then the camera feed goes white. PG-7 warhead detonates on impact. The shaped charge, a cone of copper liner, collapses inward, creating a jet of superplasticized metal traveling at 6,000 meters per second. It punches through the B-tier's 12mm roof armor like it isn't there. Inside the vehicle, the jet turns into shrapnel. The B-tier's ammunition cooks off 3 seconds later. The vehicle's turret lifts 2 meters into the air. The convoy stops. Soldiers bail out of vehicles, running for ditches. They know what happens next. 60 seconds after Eagle's impact, Hawk launches. The Russian soldiers have scattered, but the Fest-Hasten UDA vehicles are still there sitting ducks on an exposed road. Hawk targets a Euro 430-20 truck, third in the convoy. Intelligence says these trucks carry ammunition. Hit one, and you get a secondary explosion that can take out anything nearby. Hawk's approach is faster than Eagle's. He's flying low, using terrain for cover until the last moment. 50 meters off the ground, racing at 130 km HDO chargers are shooting now small arms fire, AUX-74s mostly, a few PMR machine guns. The chances of hitting a drone moving this fast are essentially zero, but it's something to do. Better than just waiting. At 400 meters, Hawk pulls up into his attack dive. The truck is trying to reverse now, the driver's instinct to get away, but you can't reverse a 10-ton truck quickly on a muddy road. The wheels spin, the truck slides, Hawk adjusts his trajectory, impact, direct hit on the cargo bed. For a moment, nothing happens, just smoke. Then the ammunition inside ignites. The explosion is massive, not Hollywood dramatic, but sustained, violent. Shells and rockets cooking off in sequence, each one adding to the blast. The truck disintegrates. Two nearby soldiers are caught in the fragmentation. A BTR 40 meters away takes shrapnel through its side armor, 90 seconds. Falcon launches? Falcon is targeting the second B-tier, which has started moving again, the commander apparently deciding that staying still is more dangerous than trying to run. He's right, tactically, a moving target is harder to hit, but Falcon isn't Hawk. Falcon is the best pilot Griffin unit has. And this is where the real nightmare begins for the Russian forces, because Falcon's drone encounters electronic warfare. At 200 meters from target, Falcon's video feed starts pixelating. Then it cuts entirely. Static. The high-pitched tone in his headset tells him what's happening. He's being jammed. Russia has deployed portable R-330 Series G-TOL jammers to more and more units. These systems emit powerful radio frequency interference designed to sever the connection between operator and drone against GPAs. Drones, it works perfectly. They just hover in place or return to launch point. Against FPV drones, it should cause an immediate crash. Should. But Falcon has trained for this. With no video feed, he's flying blind. But he knows his speed, a 10-kilometer, he knows his heading. He knows approximately where the target was. He makes a decision that separates experienced pilots from new ones. He maintains trajectory and counts. 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, 3 Mississippi. His feed comes back patchy, but enough. He's drifted 40 meters right of target. The BTR is there, but his approach angle is wrong. A worse pilot would abort, circle around, try again. Falcon doesn't have time, the jamming could come back any second. He banks hard right, drops his nose, and commits to a near vertical dive. The G-forces on the drone are at the edge of what the frame can handle. He can hear stress. In the motor sounds, components flexing, something not quite right, but he's locked on target. The B-tier's gunner sees him. The turret swivels, a 272 30mm auto cannon. Against a drone, it's like swatting a fly with a sledgehammer, but if he hits, the drone vaporizes. The gunner fires, tracer rounds. Slice through the air, Falcon can see them in his feed streaks of light passing meters from his drone. Impact. The PC-7 detonates against the B-tier's turret ring, a weak point where the rotating turret meets the hull. The explosion is smaller than the truck's ammunition cook-off, but effective. The B-tier slews sideways, smoke pouring from hatches. Soldiers bail out. 3 drones, 3 impacts, 3 vehicles destroyed, elapsed time 4 minutes 12 seconds. Cost to Ukraine approximately $2,400 in hardware. Cost to Russia, conservative estimate, $15 million in vehicles and equipment. Plus 3 dead, 7 wounded, and a supply convoy that won't reach its destination. This is the new mathematics of warfare. Griffin unit is celebrating 3 for 3, perfect mission. They're already preparing the next wave, 9 more drones ready, and that convoy is still out there. Exposed. They don't know that 15 kilometers away, a Russian Zala Lancet operator has been watching his screens, not watching the convoy, watching the radio frequency spectrum. Every time an FPV drone transmits, it creates an electromagnetic signature. The Lancet operator has equipment that can detect these signatures and triangulate their source. He's been mapping Griffin unit's position for the last 3 minutes. The Lancet 3 is a different breed of weapon. It's not improvised. It's not a racing drone with a grenade taped to it. It's a purpose-built loitering munition military designation. Suicide drone. 40-minute flight time, 40-kilogram warhead, semi-autonomous navigation. It was designed to hunt artillery batteries and air defense systems. But it works just fine against drone operators. At 10:31 a.m., 8 minutes after Eagle's first strike, the Lancet launches. Griffin unit doesn't know. How could they? They're focused on the convoy, on the next strike. Falcon is doing pre-flight checks on drone number 4. Hawk is reviewing footage. From his strike, they document everything for after-action reports. Eagle is on the radio, coordinating with command. The Lancet takes 11 minutes to arrive. It flies at 110 km higher, altitude 300 meters, high enough to have line of sight, low enough to stay under most radar. Ukrainian air defense is designed for jets and cruise missiles, not slow-moving drones the size of a kitchen table. At 10:42 am, a Ukrainian machine gun position 400 meters from Griffin unit spots it. The distinctive X-shaped wings, the electric motor's faint buzz. One soldier shouts a warning, another opens fire with a PKM machine gun, a desperate attempt, but the Lancet is already diving. Inside the farm building, Eagle hears the shout. He knows instantly what it means. He yells at Hawk and Falcon, run! They have perhaps 20 seconds. Hawk drops his controller and sprints for the door. Falcon grabs two. Drone's muscle memory, stupid, but he's not thinking clearly. Eagle is right behind them. They make it 15 meters before the Lancet impacts. The 40-kilogram warhead is designed to destroy armored vehicles. Against a partially collapsed farm building, the effect is catastrophic. The blast wave travels faster than sound. Hawk and Falcon are thrown forward, both rupturing eardrums, both knocked unconscious. They'll wake up minutes later, disoriented, bleeding, but alive. Eagle doesn't make it. He was 3 steps behind. The shrapnel finds him. Eagle's real name was Dmytro. He was 28 years old. Before the war, he worked as a software developer in Kyiv. He had a wife and a daughter who was 2 years old when he deployed. His last message home, sent 3 hours before the mission, was a photo of breakfast instant coffee and a protein bar with the caption, "Living the dream." I'm telling you this because it matters. In documentary footage, in news reports, in tactical analysis, it's easy to forget that these aren't just operators or call signs, they're people. Eagle became a statistic that day, one more casualty in a war that has generated hundreds of thousands. But his death also changed something. Within 6 hours, Ukrainian Drone Command issued new protocols. FPV teams would no longer operate from static positions for more than 90 minutes. They would transmit for no more than 120 seconds before relocating. Operators would work in split teams, pilot in one location, spotter in another, communicating through encrypted tablets rather than direct radio. Hawk and Falcon survived with permanent hearing damage and PSSSSS. Falcon never flew another combat mission. Last I heard, he's training new pilots, teaching them the technical skills while trying to prepare them for the psychological weight. Hawk returned to operations after 2 months, but he's different. Faster to anger, quieter. He doesn't talk about Eagle. The convoy they hit, it never reached its destination. Russian forces had to reroute supplies, adding 12 hours to delivery times. In a war where ammunition expenditure is measured in tons per hour, 12 hours matters. But the Russians adapted too. Within days, they changed convoy procedures, smaller groups, more spacing, never traveled during dawn or dusk when light conditions favored drone cameras. They increased jamming, equipment deployment. They started hunting FPV teams with dedicated Lancet units. And here's what nobody expected: the adaptation cycle accelerated. A tactic would work for 5 days before the enemy countered it, then 3 days, then less than 24 hours. Both sides are now iterating in real time. Ukraine develops a counter to Russian jamming frequency hopping transmitters. Russia deploys better detection systems. Ukraine starts using fiber optic cables to guide drones, making them immune to jamming. Russia begins deploying anti-drone guns that can physically disable approaching threats. It's exhausting, it's relentless, and it's the new normal. Let's zoom out. That one convoy strike, 3 drones, 4 minutes wasn't unique. It was typical. This is happening dozens of times per day across a 1,000-kilometer front line. As of March 2024, Ukraine estimates it has conducted over 50,000 FPV drone strikes since the technology was adopted. Russia claims similar numbers targeting Ukrainian forces. The actual figures are impossible to verify, but even conservative estimates from open-source intelligence suggest both. Sides are conducting 100-200 FPV strikes daily. The impact on armored warfare has been profound. Tank losses on both sides have skyrocketed, not because tanks are obsolete, but because operating them has become exponentially more dangerous. A tank that would have been relatively safe 5 kilometers behind the lines 2 years ago is now vulnerable to a drone that can hunt it from 10 kilometers away. Ukrainian forces have destroyed an estimated 12,000 Russian vehicles using FPV drones. That number includes tanks, APCs, trucks, artillery pieces, and everything in between. Russia claims to have destroyed similar numbers of Ukrainian equipment, but the numbers don't tell the full story. It's the psychological impact that's changing how soldiers fight. Imagine you're a Russian infantry soldier. You're in a trench. You can't see the drone until it's 100 meters away, and by then you have maybe 3 seconds. You can't shoot it down reliably. It's too fast, too small. You can't hide from it. Thermal cameras, see-through camouflage. All you can do is listen for that whine and hope you hear it in time. Ukrainian soldiers face the same terror. slaughter everyone on the battlefield is vulnerable. There are no rear areas anymore. A supply dump 15 kilometers behind the lines can be hit. A command post in a bunker can be struck. The psychological toll is devastating. Siege rates among drone operators, both pilots and soldiers targeted by drones, are comparable to frontline infantry. Ukrainian military psychologists report that 60% of drone operators show symptoms consistent with post-traumatic stress after 6 months of operations. They watch their kills in first person. They see faces in the moment before impact, unlike artillery crews firing at coordinates. On a map, there's no abstraction, no distance. Some operators report nightmares where they're on the receiving end looking up, seeing a drone diving at them, unable to move. It's a new kind of warfare trauma, one that military mental health systems aren't fully equipped to handle. The technology isn't staying in Ukraine, it's spreading. Reports from Yemen indicate Houthi forces have deployed FPV drones against Saudi positions, using designs clearly inspired by Ukrainian models. Hezbollah in Lebanon has demonstrated similar capabilities. Kurdish forces in Syria are building them. The knowledge is open source, online forums, YouTube tutorials, Telegram channels where Ukrainian operators share technical details and tactical advice. You can go online right now and find step-by-step guides on how to weaponize a racing drone. Parts lists are available. Schematics are shared freely. The only barriers to entry are basic technical skill and access to commercial components, neither of which are significant obstacles in the modern world. This is what military analysts call technological proliferation. Once the knowledge exists, you can't contain it. And unlike nuclear weapons or advanced missiles, drone warfare doesn't require rare materials or sophisticated manufacturing. You need commercial electronics from China, basic explosives knowledge, and a few weeks of practice. The implications are staggering. Non-state actors, insurgent groups, terrorist organizations, even sophisticated criminal cartels now have access to precision strike capabilities that were previously the exclusive domain of nation-states. The U.S. military is paying attention. The Pentagon's Replicator Initiative, announced in 2023, is explicitly designed to counter this threat. The goal: field thousands of small, expendable drones that can overwhelm enemy air defenses. Price point target under $2,000 per unit. The Pentagon is reverse engineering Ukrainian tactics. But there's a problem. The U.S. military procurement system isn't designed for cheap weapons. There are regulations, safety requirements, approval processes. A weapon that costs $500 to build in a Ukrainian workshop costs $5,000 to procure through official channels. By the time it's approved, the tactical environment has changed. China is watching all of this very carefully. Taiwan is watching closer. The lesson is brutally clear. In a conflict over Taiwan, the side that masters small drones, swarms hundreds or thousands, operating simultaneously, gains an asymmetric advantage that expensive naval vessels and fighter jets might not be able to counter. Consider, a Chinese invasion force would have to cross the Taiwan Strait, hundreds of ships closely packed, moving slowly. Taiwan could theoretically deploy thousands of FPV drones from mobile launch sites scattered across the island. Even with significant losses to jamming and air defense, the sheer volume could overwhelm defenses. It's a nightmare scenario for naval planners. Israel is already adapting. After October 7, 2023, Israeli forces began deploying anti-drone systems at unprecedented scale. Not just around military bases, around civilian infrastructure, power plants, water treatment facilities. The threat isn't hypothetical anymore. Every major military on Earth is now scrambling to answer the same question. How do you defend against something that costs $500 to build and can be deployed in swarms of hundreds? The answer so far is, we don't really know. Let's talk about the countermeasures, because this isn't a one-sided story. Both sides are innovating at a pace that's frankly unprecedented in military history. Russia's electronic warfare capabilities have evolved dramatically. Early in the war, jamming systems were large, truck-mounted, and expensive. Now they're man-portable. A single soldier can carry a backpack jammer that creates a 500-meter bubble of radio frequency interference. Cost approximately $3,000 effective range against FPV drones, 200-300 meters if you're lucky, but Ukraine adapted. Newer FPV drones use frequency, hopping spread spectrum, the same technology in modern Wi-Fi. The drone and controller rapidly switch between hundreds of frequencies per second. Jamming systems have to block all frequencies simultaneously, which requires much more power. Then Russia adapted again, eye-assisted jamming that can predict frequency hopping patterns and jam preemptively. Then Ukraine introduced fiber optic guided drones. Yes, you heard that correctly, fiber optic cable. The drone pulls out a thin fiber optic line as it flies, maintaining a physical connection to the operator. No radio signal to jam, no. Wireless vulnerability range is limited to about 10 kilometers, the length of cable the drone can carry, but it's completely immune to electronic warfare. The downside, the cable can snag on trees, buildings, power lines. It's fragile, it limits maneuverability, but in high jamming environments, it works when nothing else does. Russia has countered fiber optic drones with low-tech solutions, nets. Literally just nets strung between poles around high-value targets. A drone flying at 100 km hits a net, the cable snags, the drone crashes. Medieval solution to a 21st century problem, and it works. Both sides are also developing AI-assisted targeting. The operator gets the drone close, then autonomous systems take over for the final approach. This solves two problems. It works through jamming, no signal needed for the last 200 meters, and it's more accurate than human pilots in the final seconds. The ethical implications are obvious. These are effectively autonomous weapons making kill decisions. But in the context of a war where both sides are already using them, those ethical considerations take a backseat to tactical necessity. There's also the counter-drone phenomenon. Both sides now operate FPV drones specifically designed to hunt other FPV drones. It's like aerial dogfighting, except at 150 km HAR 3 meters off the ground, piloted by someone sitting in a trench 5 kilometers away. The skill required is extraordinary, and then there are directed energy weapons lasers. The U.S. military has been testing laser systems that can burn out drone electronics at ranges up to 2 kilometers. Israel has deployed the Iron Beam system. These work well in testing. In combat conditions with rain, fog, smoke from burning vehicles, their effectiveness drops significantly. The cost equation is fascinating. A laser system costs $10 to deploy. It can engage hundreds of targets for essentially free just electrical power, but it requires clear line of sight and favorable weather. FPV drones cost $500 and work in any weather, from a pure cost. Benefit analysis, the drones win. We're watching an arms race play out in real time, with innovation cycles measured in weeks instead of decades, and nobody knows where it ends. Numbers and tactics only tell part of the story. Let's talk about the people fighting this war. Andriy is 19 years old. He was recruited into a Ukrainian FPV unit 6 months ago. Before the war, he was a competitive gamer specifically. First-person shooters, his reflexes, his hand-eye coordination, his ability to make split-second decisions under pressure, all skills that transferred directly to drone combat. He's conducted 47 successful strikes. He doesn't like to talk about them. When pressed, he describes it clinically: target acquisition, approach vector, impact confirmation. But at night, he doesn't sleep well. There's a term circulating among Ukrainian drone operators, the view, capital T, capital V. It refers to that first-person perspective, watching your strike from the weapon's point of view. Some operators say they've become numb to it. Others say that's a lie we tell ourselves. The unique horror of FPV warfare is its intimacy. An artillery officer fires at coordinates, a jet. Pilot drops bombs from 10,000 meters. Even a sniper has distance, optical magnification that creates psychological separation. But an FPV pilot, in those final seconds, you see everything. The detail is too high. The perspective is too close. Ukrainian military psychologists have developed specialized therapy protocols for drone operators. Group sessions where pilots can talk about the view without judgment. Cognitive behavioral therapy focused on processing the specific trauma of first-person combat. It helps some, not everyone. On the Russian side, the psychological impact is different but equally severe. Soldiers have learned to fear the sky. They describe the constant anxiety knowing that at any moment a drone could be diving at them, and they won't know until it's too late. Some soldiers refuse to move during daylight. Others become paranoid, seeing threats in every sound. There are reports, unverified but persistent, of Russian units refusing orders to move through areas known for heavy FPV activity, of soldiers deserting rather than face another week of drone strikes. The psychological warfare aspect of FPV drones might be as significant as their tactical impact. And then there's the strange phenomenon of respect between operators. Ukrainian and Russian drone pilots monitor each other's channels encrypted but not unbreakable. They study each other's techniques. There are reports of operators leaving messages for each other in drone camera footage, coordinates of planned strikes, warnings, even strange moments of professional acknowledgement. One Ukrainian operator told a journalist, "We're all suffering from the same thing. We're all doing the same terrible job." There's a shared understanding, even across enemy lines. It doesn't stop them from trying to kill each other, but there's a recognition that they're all trapped in the same nightmare. Families struggle to understand. How do you explain to your parents, your spouse, your children that you pilot drones into targets, that you've killed dozens of people without ever leaving a room. The disconnect between the physical safety of the operator and the violence they inflict creates a psychological dissonance that's hard to resolve. "I'm safe," one operator said. "I'm 8 kilometers from the front. I eat hot meals. I sleep in a real bed most nights. But I've killed more people than most frontline infantry soldiers." How do you reconcile that? There's no good answer. This is new territory for military psychology, for ethics, for how we think about combat and its effects on those who wage it. So where does this go? What does warfare look like in 5 years, 10 years, 20? Military futurists are already mapping the trajectories. The consensus is sobering. We're at the beginning of the drone age, not the end. Near term, the next 2-3 years, we'll see eye-assisted swarms. Not one drone at a time, but coordinated attacks with 10, 50, 100 drones, operating simultaneously under computer coordination. Human operators provide high-level targeting, destroy everything in this grid square, and autonomous systems handle individual engagements. The technology already exists. The main barrier is cost, and that barrier is dropping rapidly. A drone that required $800 in components last year costs $500 now. Next year, maybe $300, eventually sub $200. At that price point, militaries can afford to lose 90% of their drones and still come out ahead economically. Midterm, 5 to 10 years, we'll see defensive systems catch up. Not perfectly, but well. Enough to create equilibrium. Imagine a battlefield where both sides deploy hundreds of drones simultaneously, where eye-directed lasers and kinetic interceptors automatically engage threats, where human operators manage systems of systems rather than individual weapons. It sounds like science fiction, but everything I just described either exists in prototype form or is in active development. The US, China, Israel, Turkey, and Iran all have programs working on these capabilities. Long-term, 10 to 20 years, the battlefield might become genuinely autonomous. Humans provide strategic direction, but tactical engagements happen too fast for human reaction times. Drone identifies target, assesses threat, engages all in milliseconds. We're talking about warfare at the speed of computation. There are obvious risks. Autonomous weapons making kill decisions without human oversight. The potential for accidents, for systems misidentifying civilians as combatants. The ethical questions about removing humans from the decision to take life. But here's the uncomfortable truth. In a conflict between two peer adversaries, the side that embraces autonomous systems faster will have a significant advantage that creates pressure, military pressure, political pressure to move forward despite the ethical concerns. We've seen this pattern before. Nuclear weapons, chemical weapons, landmines. The international community eventually creates treaties, establishes norms, limits the worst excesses. But there's always a gap between the technology's emergence and the regulations that govern it. During that gap, terrible things happen. We're in that gap right now with drone warfare. The question isn't whether we should develop these weapons. That decision has already been made by multiple countries independently. The question is whether we can establish international norms and safeguards before the technology proliferates so widely that control becomes impossible. Based on current trends, I'm not optimistic. Let's return to where we started, that muddy road near Bakhmut, a Russian convoy, 3 Ukrainian operators, 4 minutes that changed everything. Eagle Dimitro didn't know his strike would become a case study. He didn't know his death would lead to new protocols that would save other operators' lives. He was just doing his job in a war he didn't. And choose using weapons that didn't exist when he was born. That's the reality of modern warfare. Soldiers adapt to technologies that evolve faster than doctrine, faster than training, faster than human psychology can comfortably process, and they carry the weight of that adaptation physically, mentally, morally. They were salve, way extemp dis, the convoy strike, the counter-strike, the endless cycle of innovation and counter-innovation. This isn't an aberration. This is the new normal. This is what warfare looks like in the 21st century. It's not soldiers on horseback or trenches stretching across continents. It's not even the tanks and aircraft that dominated 20th century battlefields. It's operators in makeshift command posts, wearing goggles, controlling weapons that cost less than a month's rent, destroying equipment worth millions, killing people they'll never meet, but whose faces they'll never forget. The technology is spreading. The knowledge is available. The barriers to entry are dropping. Within a decade, drone warfare, sophisticated, lethal, large-scale drone warfare will be accessible to nearly any organized group with modest funding and basic technical expertise. That should terrify us, not because drones are uniquely evil. War has always been terrible, but because they make war easier to wage and harder to control. There's a quote attributed to Einstein, though he probably never said it. "I know not with what weapons World War III will be fought, but World War I will be fought with sticks and stones. The implication being that World War III would be so destructive it would collapse civilization. But what if World War III isn't nuclear? What if it's fought with swarms of autonomous drones, with AI making tactical decisions, with warfare that happens too fast for diplomacy to intervene? What if the next great conflict isn't won by the side with the most advanced technology, but by the side most willing to embrace autonomous killing? I don't have answers. Nobody does. We're making this up as we go along, and the stakes couldn't be higher. But I do know this: the young men and women piloting these drones on both sides deserve more than to be reduced to statistics or tactical case studies. They deserve to be remembered as people who found themselves in an impossible situation and did what they thought was necessary, even when it broke something inside them. Eagle deserves to be remembered, not as a call sign or a cautionary tale, but as Dimitro, a software developer who loved his daughter, drank terrible coffee, and died trying to protect his country using technology that turned war into something intimate and terrible. The drone age has arrived. It's not. It's here. What we do with that reality, how we regulate it, how we prepare for its implications, how we support the people who fight these wars, that's on us. All of us. That Russian convoy never reached its destination. The supplies didn't get through. Tactically, the mission was a success. But 3 families lost someone they loved, Russian families who lost soldiers in the convoy, and a Ukrainian family who lost Dimitro. That's the cost of this new kind of warfare: efficient, precise, devastating, and deeply, profoundly human. This has been the story of one strike, one counter-strike, and the revolution they represent. Thank you for watching, and if you learned something, if this made you think, please share it. These stories need to be told. This conversation needs to happen, because ready or not, the future of warfare is already here.